Good evening, everybody. Hi, can you all take your seats so we can get started? Thank you. I'm Emily Swan, President of the Board of the Brunswick-Topsham Land Trust, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our 2024 annual meeting. I don't think we have ever seen such a room full as this, and we're delighted to see you all here. I'll begin by officially calling the meeting to order, recognizing that we have a quorum of at least 30 members as required by our bylaws. I think we have 30 and a few to spare, which is really great. Whoops. Okay. Before we get started with this meeting, I want to say that the Brunswick-Topsham Land Trust acknowledges that our work takes place on the traditional land of the Wabanaki people. We recognize that these lands were not given up freely but taken by Europeans through forced displacement. This displacement caused cultural and physical devastation to indigenous people with repercussions that continue to this day. We honor and respect the Wabanaki people who have stewarded the lands and natural resources in our area for generations. We affirm our responsibility to build meaningful relationships with our Wabanaki neighbors in caring for these lands now and into the future. We understand that this statement does not rectify the lasting harms experienced by the Wabanaki people. We recognize that we have much work to do to create a more inclusive conservation community. This acknowledgement is an essential beginning. I'd like to begin the program with some thank yous. First, many thanks to the law firm of Eaton Peabody, our event sponsor for this gathering, to Nomad Maine for the space and great technical and staff support and delicious food and drink, to Wild Oats Bakery for equally delicious desserts, to our staff for all their hard work in general and in putting this evening together in particular, to our top-notch board, and of course to you, our members, donors, and volunteers who make all our work possible. Thank you all. I thought it was up there. Where did it? Okay, did it go? Sorry. Okay, now on to our program. We'll start with some necessary business. I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of last year's annual meeting, which you should have found in the email links about this meeting and which were available at the front desk at the check-in table. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? There's a move by Margaret Wilson, second? Second by Peter Simmons. If you're a member, you can vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All opposed, raise your hand and say nay. The minutes pass unanimously. Okay, and I'm just going to run through the program for tonight, and then I'll get out of the way. The next, the first item on the business agenda will be our treasurer, Jamie Tatham, who'll give a brief overview of our finances, and he'll be followed by Governance Committee Chair Raul Fessenden, who, along with me, will lead us through the business portion of the evening, electing directors and officers, as well as voting on a bylaws amendment. Then Development Director Christy Hattrick will give a report on our fundraising goals and achievements, and then we'll move to an update of all sorts of BTLT doings by our Executive Director, Steve Walker. And then finally, we'll be recognizing some special people, including what will be the heart of the program. I said, my notes say a conversation with outgoing board member, and I think, boy, is that an understatement? Does it fall so short of expressing the length, breadth, and depth of this person's contribution to BTLT over the years? I'm talking, of course, of Tom Settlemyer, and we'll have a conversation with Tom conducted by our Agricultural Programs Manager and Tom Settlemyer superfan, Julia St. Clair. And after the formal program, we strongly encourage you to stick around to enjoy food and drink and talk to each other and our staff and board and see all the displays in the back that our staff are showing you about the work we're doing. Pick up some merchandise perhaps at the front desk and enter tickets in the raffle. But before all of this, we want to start the evening with a 5-minute video by a local young documentary filmmaker and supporter who is here, Nolan Line, who has generously donated his skills and time to the Land Trust over the years, producing really great films about our work, including the one that you are about to see.
This farm is the cultural hub for this town. 100 years ago, a significant percentage of Americans worked on farms, and now farmer is not even an occupation that's listed on the U.S. Census. We've become very disconnected from the land, and I think land trusts offer an opportunity for people to be outside. They get to move around, they get to experience nature. They also get to see working farms. They get to see the farm through the seasons. 365 days a year, there are people coming here to learn, explore, relax. It's a really unique resource for everyone who lives in the area to come and experience nature, agriculture, community, education, and the Land Trust has spent the last couple of decades really building all of that in place. There's something for everybody. People really kind of have a hunger to connect with the natural world, and agriculture is very much a part of that. BTLT's commitment to keeping working farms as a part of open space really helps make that connection. What I've really come to understand about farming and my connection to this place is that by the calendar, we've been here for a generation. When I think about all of the farmers that have come before me and all that they've done to successfully grow crops here year after year and take care of the soil, I'm really proud to be another part in that to make it a little bit better for the next farmer that's coming behind me.
Kids are born with this genuine joy, and it is triggered when you are outside. The simple act of going out on a walk and looking at buds on a tree and wondering, is that going to turn into a leaf, a flower? You never know what's going to happen. The work we're doing is helping local kids connect with the place that they live. This is a great opportunity to bring to life the science learning and make it much more authentic and something that they can connect to because they're seeing it happening. So it just provides a lot of experiences that are really hard to replicate in the classroom. We're helping them see a river for the first time, go hiking for the first time, constant little discoveries that help provide these first opportunities for kids. For you to be able to have time outdoors with a little bit of structure and a little bit of freedom, and finding that perfect balance is so important. To learn more about the nature happening right here in their own backyard where they're growing up is a really terrific opportunity.
Having access to land is increasingly uncommon. Not everyone has the opportunity to have a backyard, let alone grow in their own space. So a community garden is really awesome because it's access. Community can be built around these green spaces too. So they're not just, a couple of trees in the woods. It's a trail network that you're passing your neighbors on. It's the garden that you're going through, that you're working with other volunteers. It's the farmer's market at Crystal Spring Farm where you're getting to be with community. That aspect of it is certainly the most important part of why we conserve land, not just for the protection and the necessity of conserving natural resources so that we have healthy environments to live in, but also that we can build community around these environments. Everyone comes here with sort of a different draw and desire, but ultimately you're coming here, you're getting to be around other people who are sort of interested in being outside, getting their hands in the soil, providing food for the community, and I think that's the coolest thing that's happening here.
How many shades of green can we count as we walk through the woods at the springtime? There are dark shades, light shades, everything you can imagine, and it is spectacular. And the same thing in the reverse in the fall. The land is an incredible teacher. It says, you know what? I'm here to take care of you, but you got to take care of me. For every turnip that you take out, for every tomato that you harvest, the land says, I've given you something. And you've got to understand that, because if you don't, I'm going to run out of things I can give you. Our most important resource in this world is our ability to feed ourselves off of the soil we've got. The land base that we use to produce our food in this world is incredibly fragile. and we got to take care of it. And I think our drive with not only conserving that land, but putting it back into production is something that we got to really help the public understand. We've gotten away from nature. To walk in the woods, to walk in the fields, to see a garden crop being produced, with a fly rod in my hand and looking at the water, and no matter whether I catch a fish or not, seeing the beautiful area that we live in is something that gets me centered back on what life is all about. We're in a very spectacular place, and we got to look at it in a way that will give that opportunity to as many people as we possibly can. Allow them to be here and to center themselves and to see nature as a way that life ought to be.
Well, treasurer's report's not going to stack up to that, so I'll do my best. I'm Jamie Tatum. I'm the treasurer here at BTLT. Thank you all for coming. I did want to give you a brief update on some history of the land trust and where we're going. And so I started with the land trust in 2016. It's now 2024. I can't take credit for any of the numbers that I'm going to share with you, but it has been a remarkable 8 years. That we really need to thank our staff, our board, and our members for all the hard work and commitment to the organization and everything we've done. Our organization financially just went over the $10 million mark on our balance sheet this past year. That's led by $6.5 million of land that we've acquired. Since 2016, it was $1.5 million. So we made great strides in land acquisitions in that time. We also have put a lot of our resources into our endowment fund that funds our stewardship program, and that is almost the $2 million. It's at $1.9 million. We closed out this past year, and that was started at $290,000 in 2016. So we've made significant efforts there to bolster the financial position of the organization. With all those asset acquisitions, though, we've had a remarkable opportunity this past year with Dion Farm, and we have a note payable on that property currently that we're going to attack in the next few months to pay that with our members and supporters of the organization. I will say this past year has been very interesting with our first.
I'm so sorry. Is it really quiet in the back? Yeah.
Sorry, I was really trying to talk softly and emulate music behind me like a video. I don't think I can pull that off. It really set me up for success. So anyways, this past year, we merged with Career over a year ago, and so we operationally have brought them into our organization. Sort of from the financial side of things, have meshed the operations. They're summer heavy with the educational programs that we do, so we've sort of sorted out all those things with our operating cash flows and things like that, and we're fully integrated. We are very well positioned for our future goals and everything that we want to accomplish looking forward, and really proud of the last 8 years that I've been here. So thank you all. I'm going to turn it over. We'll turn it over to Raul now for our governance portion. Thank you.
That's going to be a hard act to follow. Okay.
Don't we love technology?
Okay?
It's so fun.
Is everybody okay out there? Can you hear me? Okay. We want to propose an amendment to the bylaw, so that's the first item of business here. Let me give you a little context before we get to that. Is there another slide after this one? You want to go right? Oh, you want me to do the arrow?
Yeah.
I told you it would be a hard act to follow. So the point I want to make here is that the executive committee makes significant decisions for the land trust, and they also make important recommendations to the full board. And the executive committee consists of 4 officers plus the retired board president. There's no provision for additional members to that decision-making body. And now, as we face our future, we have some major undertakings. We're happy to have those major undertakings, but they're big. And when we're making those decisions, it's best to have all the people in the room who are participants in that process. And so we want to open up the executive committee to allow 1 or 2 additional members to be a part of the executive committee when their major projects are dominating the organization. So the proposal is to add a sentence allowing the addition of 2 additional people. They will be there to support their project, but the point I want to make here is they're also there to see the situation of the overall organization. So they're understanding their project in the larger context and participating in how do we optimize our resources. And so the point is to add this one sentence. It's the second sentence in this piece in front of you. It says, in addition, the president may appoint, with the approval of the board, up to 2 additional directors for a term of up to 1 year. So these are not permanent positions. They are for a period of time when whatever their undertaking is really dominating the work that we do. So are there any questions? So this requires...
Do you have an example of what a project like that might be?
I have no idea. But I think we'll talk about it later on. So this requires a 2/3 vote of the members present. Can we have a show of hands of those in favor? That's a lot. How many are opposed? That's none. Okay, so it's unanimous. Thank you very much. That's an important piece of business for us. So now, I want to spend some time talking about the retiring board members. So I want to tell you, is there another slide? I want to tell you some of what these retirees have done for you during their tenure on the Land Trust. And I want to start with Emily Swan. She's been a strong voice for increased engagement with the community. I'm doing it in my order. Emily, stand up. So let's see, where were we? She was a strong voice for increased community engagement and a strong supporter of the staff. She was chair of the Community Engagement Committee, and early in her presidency we did a community survey to learn what you all wanted from the Land Trust. And the feedback from that survey has guided and motivated much of our work since that time. Then COVID changed everything, and Emily led us through that difficult period. You know, time tends to round off the pain and grief of that time, but it was hard. And everyone was focused on their personal situation and their family's situation, as well as the organization's situation. And the way we did our work was completely upended. We had to learn new ways to operate while safeguarding ourselves and our families. The Land Trust came through that in good shape, and we continue to do our conservation work. We were always optimistic under Emily without sugarcoating it, but it was a hard time, and organizational survival was not always clear. There were many unknowns. Emily provided the glue and the strength and the positive attitude that the organization needed. And then, as the pandemic ended, she and others turned to the merger with the Cat River Educational Alliance. I keep wanting to call it CREA, but just to make sure everybody knows, it's the Cathays River Educational Alliance. That required a leadership effort from Emily, from Angela Twitchell, Caroline Elliott, and Ellen Bennett spearheading that effort. Of course, there were legal hurdles, but in addition, there was a merger of cultures and of personalities, of bringing together of staff, of boards, of directors, and the major donors and other members. All of that was a lot of work. Emily and Ellen both spoke articulately and often and positively in support of the merger, and they created an atmosphere of success. It took 2 years, but finally we were merged. So as you can see, Emily has been busy. She's deepened our commitment to community. She's brought us through the pandemic. She's created an exciting partnership with Korea. She will tell you, I know she's waiting to say this, that she had lots of help and that, everybody else was involved as well. But being the leader in situations like that requires a certain amount of, ability to step up and add the missing ingredient, whether it's energy or, concern or whatever it is. It's a different thing all the time, and it can create anxiety. I just want to acknowledge that Emily's been through a challenging time. Doug Bennett, he's not on there either. He joined the board in 2012, and Doug has the big picture. As former president of a university, he understands multiple constituencies with conflicting priorities. He's a master storyteller as well, and he uses his stories to make his points, to illustrate his points. He's also an effective writer, and he's written many of our guiding documents, including our current strategic plan. As chair of the Finance Committee, Doug had a great impact on bringing his strategic perspective to our reporting. He upgraded our reports significantly, especially with an eye toward supporting the strategic issues or highlighting the strategic issues. He's also policy-oriented. He's been a strong voice in governance with a big picture perspective. He has a strong social conscience, and he wants to be substantive in what we do and what we strive for. He has made us a better organization in many ways. And not only leading the board, but he is remaining on the Finance Committee. Jamie Tatum joined the board in 2016. My notes say 2017, but I'm going to go with his notes. He was invited to bring his expertise to the Finance Committee. Jamie, in case you don't know, he's Vice President of Finance and Assistant Treasurer at Bowdoin College, so he's a busy guy. But he also found time to support us. And he's a CPA. And there's a story, I'm sure it's true, that at one time Doug Bennett, who was chair of the Finance Committee, declared that our financial reporting needed more of Jamie and less of Doug. So they changed seats. And Doug stayed on as a member and Jamie became the chair of the committee. I just want to say, from my somewhat broader perspective, I've seen a lot of other organizations, and we have extraordinary reporting for an organization of our size, and we owe that to Jamie. Our audits have been outstanding. The LTA has given us the Land Trust Accreditation Organization has given us plaudits for our financial reporting. So thank you very much, Jamie, for your help. Ellen Bennett joined our board when Korea and BTLT merged. She was chair of the Korea board. She brought her understanding of Korea and its background at a strategic level, at a high level. She understands and champions Korea's values and priorities. She helped us set up an education committee, and she's been the educational voice on the executive committee. Along with others who joined the board from Korea, she's a leader of the educational initiative within the Land Trust. Her presence on the executive committee has confirmed to others that Korea is an equal partner in this organization. As I mentioned earlier, Ellen was a champion and supporter of the merger and was instrumental in helping get support from the Korea board and other supporters. So thank you, Ellen. That brings us to Tom Settlemeyer. You're going to hear more about him later, so I'm not going to have very much to say. I just would like everybody to understand that Tom has been an inspiration to many of us who have come to the organization more recently. Talking to Tom, which I meet him in the farmer's market regularly, semi-regularly, but talking to Tom always leaves me energized and motivated for the work that we do. We think of Tom as our inspiration, and occasionally he's our wizard in doing amazing things. So, thank you, Tom. So now I want to turn it over to Emily for the nominations.
Thank you, Raul, and thank you for those kind words. It really does take a village to do just about anything, and I think one of the strengths of this organization is that is really part of the culture of our organization, and working together we accomplish so much. So, on to the last bit of business before we move to the reports and the program. Election of officers. I want to make sure that I have them in the right order. I'm sorry, directors, not officers. So the people you see up there, John Berry, Joan Carney, Dana Topman, and Rick Wells, are the slate of people we're bringing onto the board as directors. I hope you've had a chance to learn about them. Their bios were in the materials that you received by email. They will all bring, in fact, they are already bringing their creative thinking, their professional skills, and their deep commitment to the work of your land trust. So I would like to propose a vote to approve the slate of officers. All members in the audience, if you vote to approve the slate, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the slate is approved unanimously. Now, on to, if I said directors, I mean officers again, I meant directors. I think I did. Now, I'm going to say officers. Our slate of officers, as you see above, is for President Rolf Essendon, Vice President Bill Ferdinand. He's currently an officer serving as our secretary, and he's moving into Vice President's role. Secretary Susan Ray Reeves, and Treasurer John Barry. All in favor of this slate of officers, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The slate is approved unanimously. Congratulations to all new directors and new officers, and it is really with great pleasure and profound confidence in the future of our organization that I pass the figurative gavel to our new board president, Rolf Essendon. But right now, I'm going to pass the literal microphone to our development director, Christy Hattrick, for a report on fundraising.
Hi, everybody. When I was here before you last year, fresh out of our integration with Korea, I shared that our goal last fiscal year was to merge well. And I'm happy to report that we have indeed accomplished that goal. As you can see from this slide, we reached program highs this past fiscal year in most of the areas that we track. We raised more for operating funds for more people through larger gifts than ever before. And the bottom line is that members make BTLT's mission possible, right? Nothing that we do in the office, out on any of the trails, in the gardens, at the farmer's market, anywhere is possible, would be possible without your steadfast support. It is an honor to do this work, and we thank you for your commitment to strengthening community through conservation. And I'm also happy to report that we are off on the right foot here in fiscal year 25. Thus far, gifts to the annual fund for our operating dollars are ahead of budget. Our membership numbers are ahead of budget. We are the grateful recipients of 2 recent bequests, and things are coming along quite nicely. I also wanted to give you an alert that for Giving Tuesday this year, we'll be raising funds for Korea Camp scholarships. Thanks to generous donors and some grant funding, this past summer we were able to provide 15 full or partial scholarships to kids. And this summer, Macy, our camp director, is hoping to provide even more kids with the opportunity to experience the magic that is TRIA Camp. So look for more information about Giving Tuesday, which is December 3rd, coming in your mailbox or your email inbox soon. And you all are not only our members, but you also are our volunteers. You make our work possible through the gift of your finances and through the gift of your time and expertise. Thank you. The breadth of your volunteer help is astonishing. In fiscal year 24, volunteers provided lunches for some of our CREA campers, got us all parked safely at the farmers market, monitored trail conditions and helped with trail upgrades and maintenance, researched grant opportunities, greeted visitors to the Ecology Center and helped to maintain the building, set up and cleaned up databases at the office, and did all kinds of other office projects. You did so many things at the Thomas Settlemyre Community Garden, from tending the common good garden beds, revamping the composting system, pruning the orchard, and fixing all of the things that needed fixing. You greeted people at the farmers market. You got kids signed up and ready each week for Pop Club. You resurfaced the labyrinth in the woods. You shared your expertise. You helped us prepare for field trips by prepping supplies for school science units, and you helped us set up camp activities. And you served on committees and work groups and the board. So I'll say it again. You make BTLT's mission possible. Thank you. Our Executive Director, Steve Walker.
Hey, Raul, do you want to manage my slides?
Need remedial training. Hey, I did remember my note cards and my glasses this time, so. Thank you, Lydia. I couldn't do anything without it. Speaking of staff, the staff, everybody who works in the organization, stand up and put your hand up in the air, please. These are the most passionate and mission-driven people that I've ever worked with in my career. So, I've only been here 11 months, but thank you guys. You've made this first year just amazing for me, and I can't believe all you get done during the course of the day. And especially I wanted to point out two new staff we have. Macy, who is our new camp director. Right there we go. Yes, Macy Galvin, our new camp director. She's the one there on the left, as you can see her name. And Jessica Nixon, who is our new director of finance and administration, which is a new position for us this year. So I'm supposed to give the report. So I'd like to report that it has been quite a year of change and transition for the organization, and all in a great way. I personally now see us on the threshold of transformation that will deepen our ties to the community and directly address today's environmental challenges and increasing need for human connection to one another and the earth. This year, we've heard from other speakers, the remaining components of the merger with CREA we've navigated successfully. We've created 2 new director positions. And we've tweaked our organizational structure to what I hope will be to cultivate better personal and professional growth among our staff. We've addressed the critical needs of increasing capacity for development and, of course, for financial oversight as well. We've had a very successful first year of camp under Macy's leadership. We've launched 2 new committees, both the Education and Agriculture Committee. We've now been accredited for the 3rd time, which is a true testament to the professionalism and dedication of our staff and board. Let me know when I need to change a slide. And thanks to an invaluable friend of the Land Trust, we now have the opportunity to create a new home for our mission and value. I think there we go. Too many. Right there, Dion Farm on Pleasant Hill Road. And along those lines, the lines of Dion Farm, we've immersed ourselves in a visioning process to utilize this property in a way that advances key goals of our 2023 strategic plan and will help propel us forward to achieve broader goals over the next several years in local agriculture, education, land conservation, and stewardship. And of course, all this work, especially recently, has been going on with a backdrop of significant planetary and political changes. Needless to say, the headlines over the past couple of weeks will have a wide range of implications in all kinds of ways. But to me, the most striking, and I'm not trying to get political here, but the most striking of these post-election times is the apparent mainstreaming of science denial. If our highest public office and appointed cabinet members are reluctant to look out for basic public welfare by simply acknowledging climate and biodiversity emergencies, we have our work cut out for us as an organization. And fortunately, this organization is in great position to offer local solutions and the much needed hope in the communities we work with. I've been active in the land trust community for a while, and I've seen that we are certainly in the position of being on the forefront for implementing the governor's Maine won't wait and ensuring that Maine towns have a pathway to navigate the current climate weirding. Increasingly, land trusts are called upon to be service providers beyond the capacity of Maine's municipal governments. And in many ways, we've become an extension of local municipal planning, recreation, and education departments. Fortunately, in our service area, both Topsham and Brunswick are developing climate action plans, and the efforts of this organization will be crucial in the successful implementation of these plans. This work, of course, is expensive, not only in the increasing cost of buying land, but also the human resources it takes to meet both the current public expectations and envision growth of our services and impact. As I see it, our key challenge in the coming years is to build broad public awareness that BTLT is an organization of hope and inclusion for all within our 3-town service area. Each of our activities is directly responsive to the climate challenge before us. Being a local organization, investment with us provides a short pathway to direct and effective on-the-ground actions in our collective backyards where we live and recreate. The place we hope to pass on to future generations will be in better shape. We hope that the place will be in better shape than when we found it. And to be most effective, we must proudly pronounce why what we do matters, makes a difference in people's lives, no matter what political affiliation, race, socioeconomic background. 40 years of your support as our membership has helped us get where we are. It has helped us develop expertise in land conservation, and we now find ourselves squarely in a position to cultivate community and collectively leave a lasting legacy. Meeting this challenge, however, will require all of us, our friends, our neighbors, everybody stepping up and investing in this land trust mission. So as our loyal supporters, please help us get the word out, and let's do this together. And speaking of legacy, without further ado, it's my great pleasure to hand over the show to acknowledge 2 people that have certainly left a legacy on this organization. And with that, I'll call up Ellen Bennett.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I just wanted to start by saying that I am certain that everyone here knows a colleague, has a friend, or maybe you yourself have said at one time or another, okay, I'll do that for a year. I'll step in and help out. We'll try it out for a year. We are so lucky that Caroline Elliott remained for more than a year as CREA's executive director. We are honoring Caroline in her absence with CREA's Founders Award, which was established by John Rensenbrink and John Wasilewski to honor individuals whose work for CREA and dedication to its mission helped to strengthen the organization and ensure its legacy. CREA's board members recommend and approve individuals for such recognition. And our merger with the Land Trust also goes to help further our legacy and ensure our ongoing existence. Many of you know Caroline from her years with the Land Trust. After a couple of years outside the workforce, how fortunate CREA was to have her step into the role of executive director, not only because of her tireless work ethic and attention to detail, capped by her joy in both observing and working with students on the preserve, and she truly loved that and recognized it as the heart and soul of our organization, but also because fate conspired to toss COVID our way. And she helped CREA as we all worked together with the Land Trust and with CREA to remain nimble and responsive and well-funded throughout that tumultuous time. Coming through that, ongoing conversations with the Land Trust led to the merger that has benefited us all. Caroline and Angela Twitchell were and are former colleagues and allies, which helped in the transitions that are, I might say, still ongoing in some ways. I like to refer to that as administrivia. There are these little tiny details that are still very smoothly getting worked out. And Caroline stepped in. Sorry, I did that. Okay.
You did it.
I did it. Caroline stepped in to fill Angela's shoes when Angela left us to assume her new role with NCHT. She took on a lot during this time, and we are all better for it. So is it any wonder that CREA's former board members, upon the occasion of her retirement, want to honor her with this award? The plaque will be prominently displayed in CREA's Ecology Center. And though she's not with us tonight, I hope you'll join me in celebrating her and her accomplishments.
All right, so my name is Julia St. Clair. I'm the Agricultural Programs Manager with the Land Trust. And I have the great honor of introducing Tom Settlemyer tonight. So for some folks here, Tom needs no introduction. If you're lucky, you've already had the opportunity to work with Tom or the chance to talk to him at the farmers market, hear stories of his childhood in Ohio, or be inspired by his vision for conservation and agriculture. Tom grew up on a rural family farm where he learned early on about the importance of soil health of the entire ecosystem. He went on to earn a PhD in biochemistry and teach in our favorite Bowdoin College, and became a central figure in agriculture and land conservation in Maine. His early lessons that he learned about farming and soil still resonate whenever Tom talks about food, health, and farming. They are central to an agrivision that has advanced on the local, regional, and state level for years. So Tom Settlemyer is leaving the Land Trust Board of Directors after 26 years of service, including 2 presidencies and innumerable hours of work on various committees. He was instrumental to the conservation of the over 300 acres of Crystal Spring Farms conservation land. He helped to found the Brunswick-Topsham Land Trust Farmers Market, which just celebrated its 25th anniversary. And we even have a community garden that we have named after him in his honor. I want to share a quote from Sandy Stott's tribute to Tom, which you can also find on BTLT's blog. And Sandy said, "To say that our organization carries Settlemyer's fingerprints is to understate his shaping influence. Better to say that BTLT carries Tom's DNA. Nowhere is that clearer than in the Land Trust's commitment to local agriculture, little and large. Whether it's the 80 individual plots of the Tom Settlemyer Community Garden, the Saturday Farmers Market, or the sweep of Crystal Spring Farms organic fields, any appraisal of the Land Trust's lifting effect on local agriculture begins with him." Tom will captivate you with his stories. about the heifer cow he received as a gift from his grandfather that became his own personal project, learning to care for this animal as part of his own coming of age. Or sometimes he will surprise you and ask, grinning, "Did I ever tell you about the time I got kicked out of the science lab when I was a student for brewing beer in there?" At the farmers market this past summer, I recall a moment under the tent of the BTLT booth, where gathered around him were about half a dozen Bowdoin seniors, students deep in their educational journeys, who were all captivated in conversation by Tom, the storyteller, the visionary. Well, Tom has this grand vision. It all comes back down to the ground, to the soil itself. As he learned from his childhood, soil is the most important resource we have on Earth. If you don't have fertile, productive soil, you have nothing else. Soil is connected to the land, to the food that we eat, to the health of ourselves as individuals and as a community as a whole. Tom is a kind, generous, passionate, thoughtful, and of course, witty person. And he doesn't just have good ideas, he brings them to life, bringing people together, making fundraising connections, and getting his hands into the soil. Personally, I feel so lucky to have Tom as a mentor, a guide, and an adopted grandfather of sorts. He is a constant reminder of the importance of the work that I get to do with this organization. Tom's work with the Land Trust over these 2 decades will have a lasting impact on this community and will continue to inspire new generations of farmers, healthy eaters, and stewards of the soil. So please join me in welcoming Tom up to the stage for a conversation about his many years shaping the vision of the Brunswick-Topsham Land Trust.
You want me to say something?
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Okay. All right, so 26 years, that's a long time. I think you were just saying to me earlier that that's like 300 board meetings or something. That's a lot.
Yeah, I counted it up, or at least did a rough count. It was over 300 board meetings.
That's a lot of board meetings. So my first question is, reflecting on your time at BTLT, what accomplishments are you most proud of?
Well, first off, let's say no one accomplishes anything in our land trust as an individual. It is one of the greatest treats and the greatest, I think, accomplishments that this organization has made is the strength of it. And the incredible, a few years ago, we had a statement about building community. And that's always stayed with me. So many of the things we do is really, really, to so many aspects, if you look at it. There's a, I'll digress quickly, but one of the things that is really, I think, something that's incredibly important, and and is central to our organization, is Crystal Spring Farm. And there are a few things that 3 or 4 things that I think are really important that build our organization the way it is. And Crystal Spring Farm is front and center. I think we all realize that. But it was a total accident. I mean, it's interesting how things happen. Donna Dion, one of the Dion family members, was working in my lab. And she came in one day, very distressed, and said, "You know what? The 160 acres at Crystal Spring Farm is going to be put into all house lots." I said, "What?" And so she...
Sorry, Tom. We really want to make sure everyone can hear you.
Okay.
I think Julia's going to hold that mic so that way it's not making all the one. You want to hold it?
Yeah, I can hold it. Is that better? A little better? I'll try and speak up. Any... Pardon? What are these? We're good. Okay, yeah, that's all right? All right. Well, what happened, Donna came in and she said, "You know what? I am incredibly distressed. We've had to put, because of monies that the family needs, we had to put 160 acres of Crystal Spring Farm up for sale. And I don't want it to be house lots." it's an important part of our farming community. I said, you got that right. I mean, I think most of you know how important Crystal Spring Farm was. It had a house-by-house milk delivery. There was a milk, people came to the farm to get milk. It was an incredible history of what was going on there. And then, so Donna said, and so what I did is we had an executive director called Jack Ailey. I called Jack and I said, Jack, meet me at the farm. He fired, and so this was interesting. I don't think I'd ever been on the back of a BMW motorcycle, but Donna got her motorcycle out, fired it up, and off we went with my whatever. We arrived at the farm, and Jack and I remember walking around, and there was a purple torn T-shirt that was somewhere in the area, and we grabbed it up and began to look at it and began to understand really what was in front of us was this 160 acres, a mile and a half in the center of town. And so what happened next is that what she said was we had an appraisal done. An appraisal come in, as I remember, at 400 and some thousand. The real estate agents had offered 690, and the family said, if you meet the $690,000, we'll sell it to you. Well, we had $5,000 in the bank. And I still remember at the closing where we were signing the purchase and sale agreement, the real estate agent was stuttering so badly he couldn't understand what on earth was happening. And so, but we signed the agreement, and Jack Ailey had a brilliant move. What he decided was that we were going to make payments once a year, and that we would take total title to 40 acres each year. In other words, we would start at one end, the next year, the next end. And the idea was to get it protected. And we got going the first year, and in 4 years, thanks to this community, thanks to the story that they heard about it, and thanks to the incredible situation which they made for Crystal Spring Farm, we had raised not $690,000, but $740,000. And I got to mention this, there was a person that was central to a lot of this person, and she's here tonight, and that's Helen Norton. Helen was very central to much. Without her, I'm not sure that we would be where we are. The other part that I think was, and it's kind of inherent in what I just described, is that the strength of our organization. It's hard to imagine an organization with the staff, with the membership, with the leadership that we've had over the years that has brought to the point where it is right now. And I just see nothing but a wonderful future in front of it. The next thing that I was, again, I'm not totally, it wasn't me totally, but for 2 years, I was kind of in charge of the interview of the farmer that we were going to have. And we had a lot of wannabes. And then all of a sudden, on a Sunday, I still remember it, on a Sunday afternoon, Seth Crack pulled into our driveway. Actually, I think it was either, I can't remember, it was Extension Service or Soil and Water Conservation. We had put the word out wherever we were that we were looking for a farmer. And they had sent Seth our direction, Seth and Maura our direction. And he came in, and we started talking, and an old farmer, I'm kicking the dirt and whatever. And then all of a sudden I said, what kinds of experience have you got? And he started talking about his work in New York with the fields and what it was. And he said, wait a minute, let me go out in the car. He said, I think I may have something that will help you. Out he went. He came in with this notebook that described the fields, what was expected. What was expected, what the yields were and how he had managed the field. And I said, Seth, can you meet the board tomorrow night? And of course, you all know the history. We all worked together to try. At first, this was ridiculous. At first, the land trust was going to hire a manager to run a farm. That would have been, can you imagine a land trust trying to run a farm? No. The idea was, what we did is describe what we wanted to have happen. An organic farm happening, taking care of the soil, doing the things we wanted, and establish that. And so it was a lease arrangement with the farm so that Seth and Maura could do what they wanted, accomplish what the land trust wanted, and folks, you know what happened. We have one of the incredible, not just farmer, but a person that is, the work he's doing is setting up for workshops, not only from here in Maine, but from the area, the New England. There isn't many people that have much of more of appreciation for soil, except probably Seth. But he understands the biology of what's going on in the soil. He understands how to make it better, and that is so the farm, Crystal Spring, and getting the farm, farming Seth, and putting together. Of course, the next thing that I had a little finger in, that I'm really incredibly proud of, is that we met with the farmers after we had hired Seth, or leased to Seth, had that all, and the word got out publicly. And all of a sudden, I came around the corner and I met with a group of farmers. They were not happy. What they said was that, what you've done is you've just created competition for us. He didn't have to buy the farm. I said, well, hey, what can we do to help you? We need more market outlets. Hey, and that was the start of the farmers market. And he was, I'm sorry, I'm digressing here. But I think it's really important for us to understand the background, the history of where all this wonderful stuff that we have now has come, not by any one person, by a group of people who really understood and were willing to understand what our agricultural process is about, what it was needed for. I got to tell you one thing that really drives my, I'll give you the mic back. And that is that the USDA had kept, over the last 50 years or so, samples of the vegetables that we find in our grocery stores and analyzed them. And a recent analyst and there's been a couple of books written that describes this, that some of the vegetables in our grocery store, the nutrient value has dropped by as much as 50%. Example, Monsanto just finished a breeding of a tomato plant, nothing to do with quality of nutrients, nothing to do with taste. The last test is if you drop it from your waist onto a concrete floor and still shippable, that's what we need. We're doing the opposite of that, and we're giving an example of how our world should be taken care of with the soil and all of the good things that should happen, and Seth is being front and center with that, and I can't be more proud of that, and I watch him so much that it is wonderful.
All right, I got a couple more questions, but you did answer that. Yeah, I know.
I will restrict.
So the farmers market just celebrated the 25th anniversary. We were just voted the best farmers market in Maine for the third year in a row. Pretty amazing. And you talked a little bit about how the market started, and I know in the stories that you tell, it was just a handful of farmers and a handful of people, sort of that chicken and the egg story. But I think the real question I have for you is what makes the BTLT Farmers Market at Crystal Spring Farm so special to you, and why do you think it's such a unique market?
I think we clearly made a focus that this was going to be a food market. It wasn't going to be what do I want to say, craft show. Everything there, it has to do with improving food. Our goal was, and in fact, I remember giving a report to the town council several years ago, and there was an interest in the farmers market. I said, we're the most important entrepreneur organization in town. And they looked at me and said, what? I said, well, look, we're providing a market outlet for 40 vendors that are selling now $1 million a year, and giving them opportunity to increase the economic contribution to the town of Brunswick, and hopefully going to the next step. We're not, I'm still interested in this food thing big time and working on a state committee on this, but we're thinking about how is it. The farmers markets are not easy for farmers. There's a lot of labor there. That's just not a simple task. What is the way in which we can move ourselves? We're still only right at the high 20% of the food that we eat raised in Maine. We need to get to 35%. We do that, that's $1 billion in economic growth for the state of Maine. And we've got to look at that seriously. And the fact that farmers markets are an important part of that, but we need to continue to imagine how our organization can be part of growing that system and making us to the point where we can, in fact, course number one is farmland conservation. We have, interestingly enough, if you look at us compare Maine compared to the other New England states, we are last. We are last in terms of acres and in terms of percent land conserved for farming, and we got to change that. It's amazing to me that Massachusetts was better than us. How can that happen?
All right. So just a couple more, but you talk a lot about the importance of soil. I feel like almost every conversation with you comes back to soil. For anyone who really wants to dig in, that was no pun intended, sorry. We did publish an article by Tom about soil health and all of the things that it's connected to, so you can read that on our website. But Tom, I was wondering if you can talk a little bit more about how you came to understand soil as such an important resource. I guess I'm actually just asking you if you can tell the worm story, because I think that's such a tangible way of understanding this. And then I got one question left.
Okay. I was incredibly proud of my father. He was forced to quit school in the 8th grade. My grandpa, who lived in Northwest Ohio in the edge of oil refineries and whatever, said, you don't need to go to high school. In fact, we had to pay for it, but somehow or other, eventually he convinced the University of Dayton to take him as a student without ever going to high school. And he ended up with a degree. No, he didn't get a degree, but what he ended up is running a factory that bottled air, oxygen, made compressed gases, made acetylene, fairly sophisticated stuff. But his same kind of focus was put onto the farm. And and one of the things I enjoyed the most is he very much appreciated the soil and what we could do to increase the organic matter, to understand that the cycle of nutrients, every turnip you take out of that field takes something out of that soil. And so what we did is the field that was going to, and fields were in about a 4 or 5 year rotation, and the field that was going into corn, every spring, Tommy, go get the bucket. What? Go get the bucket. Off we went into the field that was going to be a corn. He had a shovel, and he was bisect across the field, and what he was doing was counting the average number of earthworms per shovelful. His concept was that the more organic matter that was in that shovel, the more worms there were going to be. And he had in the milk house, and I sure wished I'd have taken a picture of that. I sure wished I'd have kept it. But we had a big poster with years across the top, fields across the bottom, and that number was recorded. And it wasn't necessarily going up in the cornfields every year, but it was the trend was up. And so the way in which he was imagining the soil and loving the soil and understanding the soil and understanding what all of it needed to, in fact, be productive was something that has stuck with me. And he, as he said, there's nothing more important. Gold, silver, oil. If we don't have food, folks, we don't have life.
So I know we could spend all night listening to Tom, but to sort of wrap up our questions, as you're stepping down from the board, and you're sticking around on some committees, thank goodness, but what are sort of your hopes and aspirations for the future of the Land Trust? What do you hope to see happen with the Land Trust in the coming years?
Well, it's amazing. It's hard to imagine an organization that built stronger than it is right now. But I hope we continue to keep a focus, particularly, and of course this is my bias, is on the soil. And continue to have a very big focus on trying to conserve farmland. We need to really, with climate change, with all that's happening, the Northeast we know is going to become more important. And we need to be able to make that happen. And so I'm hoping that we can imagine how better to even do more protection on the farmland, and that we increase that percentage, that we continue to imagine ways in which we can obviously add, and what I'm hoping, and I've got this gleam in my eye, this wonderful connection we have with Korea. A few years ago, we tried a program called The Science of a Garden, where we did some pHing and we did some mulching, and we did that. We'd be able to kind of incorporate into the Korea program. You're hearing my bias now. That we are able to increase some more of a connection with the soil and understanding the nature of the wonderful stuff that we have for growing. It's a great organization. I am so proud. As you were asking me right at the beginning, what things am I proud of? Well, it's not my accomplishment, but is the one thing to see this incredible organization provide a way in which it's building community, which is connecting so many of us together, getting us outdoors. There's one last thing. There is a book written about, it's called The Nature Deficit Syndrome by Richard Louv. 2 books I would ask you to read. Richard Louv, The Nature Deficit Syndrome. It talks about the connection about how we put ourselves with nature and how it takes care of our health and how it has that incredible advantage. I don't know about you, but I can remember on days stressed out when I take a wonderful walk through a woods and see those gorgeous structures is wonderful. And that is just an incredible thing that can happen. And I'm just going to be looking over my eye, guys, so make sure you're doing it right.
Thank you, Tom.
That's the end of the formal program. Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you.